Imagine this vast cities rising across Europe thousands of years before Stonehenge, before the Parthenon, even before the pharaohs built the pyramids. Silent, forgotten, and buried beneath fields and farmland, these cities remained unknown for millennia. And yet, once uncovered, they revealed a shocking truth. Prehistoric Europe was home to civilizations far more advanced and far more mysterious than we were ever taught. For generations, we were told the story of human progress was simple. Civilization began in Mesopotamia, spread to Egypt, then to Greece and Rome, and finally to the rest of Europe. But what if that story is wrong? What if, hidden beneath the soil of Eastern Europe, there once thrived enormous cities, sprawling spiral settlements that could house tens of thousands of people? In the mid 20th century, archaeologists digging in Ukraine and Moldova began to notice strange patterns in the ground. From above, they resembled vast labyrinths, spirals stretching for kilometers, shapes so precise they could not be natural. As excavations deepened, the truth emerged. These were not just patterns, but the remains of gigantic prehistoric cities, some of the largest ever built in the ancient world. The discovery stunned the academic world. Some of these cities were nearly 6,000 years old, older than the pyramids of Giza. Inside, researchers found evidence of carefully planned streets, rows of identical homes, workshops, communal squares, and even what might have been ceremonial centers. These were not primitive villages. They were organized urban societies with a scale and complexity that shattered the old narrative of European prehistory. Even more mysterious were the artifacts left behind. Pottery painted with spirals, swirls, and geometric shapes, symbols that may have carried spiritual meaning. Clay figurines of women, gods, or ancestors, their eyes wide, their forms both familiar and alien. Were they fertility idols or guardians of the home? We cannot know for sure, but their presence hints at a rich spiritual life, a culture whose beliefs have been lost to time. And then there is the greatest mystery of all. How could such enormous cities, capable of housing tens of thousands, suddenly vanish? No great walls protected them. No signs of war or destruction have been found. Instead, it seems these vast. As archaeologists sifted through the soil of these prehistoric cities, one detail kept returning: fire. Almost every settlement, every layer, bore traces of burning. Entire neighborhoods seemed to have been deliberately set alight. Was this ritual a purification by flame or a final act of abandonment? No one can say for certain, but the sheer scale of the evidence suggests it was no accident. Whole cities, sometimes larger than London was in medieval times, were engulfed in fire, their people vanishing into history. The people who built these vast cities are now known as the Cucuteni Tripilia culture. For centuries, they lived across what is now Ukraine, Moldova, and Romania. And they were not just farmers, they were artists, planners, and visionaries. Their pottery, with its hypnotic swirls of red and black, is some of the most beautiful in the prehistoric world. Their figurines suggest complex rituals, perhaps even early forms of goddess worship. Their homes, built from clay and wood, were arranged with striking order, sometimes in concentric circles, sometimes in elaborate spirals, as if the very design of the settlement carried symbolic meaning. But with each discovery came new puzzles. How did they feed such large populations? Their fields would have needed careful management, their herds constant tending. Did they practice an early form of communal labor? Did they already understand the delicate balance of ecology and agriculture? And more importantly, what kind of leadership held these cities together? There is no evidence of kings, palaces, or armies. No great walls, no fortresses, no royal tombs. Instead, these cities seemed to thrive on equality, or at least on a shared system of organization unlike anything we imagine for the ancient world. Every home was roughly the same size. Every family appeared to live under similar conditions. Could it be that these prehistoric Europeans lived in one of the earliest examples of a truly egalitarian society? And yet, their disappearance still haunts us. By 3000 BCE, the great spiral cities were abandoned. The people who had built them scattered, leaving behind only their broken pots and burned houses. Some suggest that nomadic horsemen from the steppes, warriors with weapons of bronze, may have pushed them aside. Others argue it was the land itself, exhausted by centuries of farming, that forced them to move. Whatever the truth, the Cucuteni Tripilia culture left no written records, no epic tales, no chronicles of their rise and fall. Instead, they left us silence, a silence that speaks louder than words. For here was a but perhaps the most tantalizing mystery lies not in what they built, but in what they believed. The figurines unearthed in these settlements, strange, abstract shapes of clay, seem to whisper of a spiritual world we can barely grasp. Were these fertility idols symbols of goddesses who watched over their harvests and homes, or were they guardians placed in every house to ward off unseen dangers? Some archaeologists claim the cities themselves were shrines, their circular layouts echoing the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Imagine living in a vast spiral settlement where every step you took carried symbolic weight, where your daily life was itself a ritual tied to the movements of the heavens. These people may have walked away thousands of years ago, but their vision, the balance of community, spirituality, and art, still lingers in the soil, waiting for us to uncover it and to wonder what we lost when their cities turned to ash. But if the figurines and shrines spoke of life and fertility, the ashes told another story, one of fear, destruction, and silence. Why did the greatest prehistoric cities of Europe vanish almost overnight? Some scholars suggest drought or famine, others whisper of plagues that swept through the crowded settlements. Yet, there are clues hinting at something darker. Ritual fires, deliberate destruction, even evidence of mass abandonment, as if the inhabitants had lost faith in their own creation. Imagine a city of thousands simply walking away, leaving behind tools, pottery, and sacred idols as if time had frozen. There is a theory, half history and half myth, that these people pushed their beliefs too far. Their obsession with cycles, fertility, and the eternal return may have demanded periodic sacrifices, not only of crops or animals, but perhaps of their very homes, even their own kin. What if entire settlements were burned as offerings to invisible gods, great spirals of flame rising to the night sky while chants echoed across the plains? And yet, amidst the destruction, their art survived. The clay figures, with their exaggerated curves and haunting expressions, seem almost alive, as though meant to hold secrets too dangerous for words. Archaeologists call them idols, but perhaps they were more, keys to an entire worldview where nothing was merely practical, where every gesture, every structure, every meal carried sacred weight. Picture walking those streets before the end. Houses clustered in perfect rings, painted walls glowing in firelight, drums beating in the distance, and shadows of dancers moving in circles that mirrored the heavens. A life both ordinary and extraordinary, children playing in courtyards, women grinding grain, men tending to herds, yet all framed by ritual, watched by silent clay faces. Then suddenly, silence. A settlement abandoned, its fields untended, its streets swallowed by weeds. For centuries, the land lay quiet, the memory of its people fading into legend. And yet, beneath the soil, the echoes remained, waiting for us to dig them up and ask, who were these dreamers? What did they fear? And why did they leave behind cities more vast, more mysterious than any we imagined Europe could hold in such a distant past. And so we return to the question that lingers like smoke over the ruins. Why did Europe's first cities rise and then fall long before the pyramids, before Babylon, before Rome? Some say it was simply nature. The rivers shifted, the soil grew tired, and without food, even the most vibrant city withers. Others argue it was humanity itself: jealousy, conflict, betrayal. Perhaps neighbors turned against neighbors, clans against clans, until the dream of unity collapsed under the weight of blood. But there is a third possibility, one that chills the imagination. What if these cities were never meant to last? What if they were built as temporary offerings, sacred experiments in stone and clay, destined to burn so that the cycle of life and death could be renewed? Imagine entire populations walking willingly into exile, leaving behind flames to erase their presence, trusting that the ashes would feed something greater than themselves. And here lies the most haunting thought of all. Did they vanish or did they transform? When you look closely, you can see echoes of their symbols, the spirals, the sun discs, the mother figures, reappearing centuries later in Celtic art, in Slavic rituals, in forgotten folk songs whispered by grandmothers to children. Their cities may have burned, but their spirit may still be breathing through us. Walk across the fields of modern Europe and you tread on their bones, their hearths, their altars. Beneath quiet farmlands and sleepy villages lie the foundations of metropolises older than history itself. And sometimes, when dusk falls and mist rises from the earth, you might feel it, that strange weight in the air, as though thousands of unseen eyes are still watching, still waiting, still whispering across the ages. The vast, ancient cities of prehistoric Europe are not just ruins, they are questions. Questions about who we were, what we feared, and what we desired when civilization itself was only a fragile spark in the darkness. And the greatest question of all, the one that echoes in the silence of those abandoned streets, is this: if they could rise so high, only to vanish so suddenly, what does that say about us and the cities we live in today?